All right, welcome back to Market Day Report. This is it. This is the last time we're going to see each other here today, really. But when you tune into the Cow Guy Close, you'll see me then. That's in 14 minutes and 45 seconds from right now. It's going to be 1 Central, 2 Eastern. Love to see you there. We got 3 great guests again. Another all-star lineup. We're going to talk about electric vehicles. We're talking about the jobs, the economy, everything. It's great subjects. Want to see you there. 1 Central, 2 Eastern. The Cow Guy Close. All right, now that cheap plug's out of the way, let's go to corn and see what corn's doing. It kind of started to give up the ghost here. We were up a couple pennies, and now we're down 4. So we've basically come off about 6 cents here. 6.79 and a half is the last in March. That's down 4 1/4 cents now. May's off 4 cents, 6.77 1/4. That's a quarter off the lows there in May, and that's a quarter off the lows there in March. Making new lows as we speak, going into the end of the day. That's no bueno. And then we've got the new crop. It's up half cent. Look at that, 5.90 1/4. But that's also come off significantly. Well, 3 cents, I guess, if that's significant. Let's talk about soybeans. They're up here. They've given back a lot of their gains, 2.5 cents higher to 15.37 3/4. Maybe something came out. Maybe our next guest analyst knows. We're up a quarter cent in May to 15.29. Now we're it's unchanged, sharply unchanged in May, 15.29 and a half. Let's see what the new crop's doing. What do we have happening out in November 23 soybeans? That's down 5 1/4 cents right now to 13.62 1/4. The Chicago wheat market, that was up today. Let's see if it's given back some of its gains. Not really. 11 cents higher in the wheat in Chicago. March is 7.63 and a half. May's 10 cents higher to 7.72 1/4. We've got the hard red wheat in Kansas City. What's going on there? We got a 6 cent rally in that March contract to 8.79 3/4, while May is up 5.5 cents. 8.72 3/4. And then finally, let's go take a look at Minneapolis. Spring wheat up there. Well, that's up 3 3/4 cents in the March contract to 9.25 1/4. May's up 3 3/4 cents to 9.18 3/4. And finally, cotton. What's happening in that cotton market? Up $1.52 to 86.62. That's March. All right, let's bring in our guest analyst. It's going to be Ted Seifried. He's the last one of the day. He's batting cleanup. Thanks for being on. He's with Zaner Ag Hedge in Chicago. What's happening in corn? And corn and beans kind of giving up the ghost here.
You know, it's been a weird kind of flighty day, Scott. Look at a short term, like a 3-minute chart, and you had corn just kind of skyrocket right around 9:30, and then just sort of trade sideways. And then right at noon, we dropped really hard, gave that back, right? And now, as you said, we're kind of pushing into lows for the day. Could not hold on to that overnight strength. And I think corn wanted to go along with wheat early on. And wheat has held on to its strength. Wheat, by the way, trading over the 50-day moving average for the first time since October. Corn wanted to participate in that. But then also, I think you're getting a fair amount of selling coming from producers, maybe even coming from Argentinian producers, possibly Brazil as well. And corn just wasn't able to go with it. And it makes you really wonder, corn has been kind of trading in tandem with wheat for the last couple of weeks or so. So, people are saying, all right, well, if wheat's going to close above the 50-day moving average, maybe this is the sign of a bigger correction in wheat. Maybe wheat can run for $1. Would that bring corn up over the $7 mark? And I got to say, I don't know if that necessarily means that, because, for the last few months, we've had wheat in a very solid downtrend, giving up almost $2. And corn hasn't participated in that. So if wheat were to have a correction higher, does that mean corn needs to go higher? And I kind of don't think that's the case. I really do think, although they have been kind of trading in tandem a little bit the last 2 weeks, they really are looking at two very different sets of fundamentals. So we have to kind of disassociate the two. And I think today is a sign that maybe we're starting to do that. Soybeans, in the meantime, tried to follow through on yesterday's big reversal higher. Lots of strength yesterday. Just kind of struggling to hold on to that. Yeah. You've got a very mixed forecast for Argentina. There's a lot of talk about Brazilian harvest delays at only like 5.2% harvested, but really they're only about 2 to 2.5% behind. They can catch up on that very, very quickly. And when they do, that Brazilian producer is very undersold compared to where they normally would be this time of year. So you got to know that there's a lot of selling that's potentially that will be coming to the market once they start to move. And so that's looming on the horizon.
All right. Always great content. Stay right there. We got to go away and pay some bills. We're going to come back and talk more with Ted Seifried, Zaner Ag Hedge. He's in Chicago. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back to Market Day Report. I am still Scott Shellady, otherwise known as the Cow Guy. This is it. Let's take a look at what's going on with those meat markets, the proteins in Chicago. Why don't we take a look and see what we've got going on in Chicago live cattle first. February, drum roll please, sharply unchanged. 158.75 is last in that Feb contract. April, Down 35 cents to 163 even. Very quiet day in live cattle. All right, let's take a look at feeders real quick. What do we got going on in feeders? Well, this has got a little bit of a rally. March is up $2.30 to 186.22. April's up $1.85 to 190.12. And then lastly, we've got to take a look at the lean hogs. Well, we've got a mixed market there. We're off one tick, 2 cents lower in the Feb to 75.12. We're 2 ticks higher in the April. It's up a nickel to 86.57. And we jockey back and forth throughout the deferred. So quiet day in the lean hogs. Let's get back to our guest analyst, Ted Seifried, Zaner Ag Hedge, out in Chicago. What's on your mind?
Well, Scott, I think, first of all, it's kind of nice that the hogs are holding, right, and not really falling back down to go challenge those lows again. I think that is a little bit of a positive sign, so we're going to take that for a win. Aside from that, cattle, very, very quiet. Obviously, feeders are finding some strength on that lower corn market, but live cattle really, like you said, sharply unchanged. In fact, bookended unchanged, with October being unchanged as well. We're waiting for that inventories report. It's expected to be bullish, which is, I think, part of the reason why we were strong yesterday. But it's been widely advertised that we're expecting inventories to drop throughout the first 3 quarters of this year. So it better be bullish, I guess, is my answer to that. So we'll see. Either way, markets as a whole are very choppy, very flighty today, and very kind of nervous. And I think a lot of that has to do with what's coming up with the Fed decision that we're going to get tomorrow, right around the grains close. And I think there's a general consensus that we're going to see a 1/4 point hike from the Fed. I got to say, Scott, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being more than that. I would go a half if it were me. I think the opportunity is there to do it because you've got a stock market that's doing fairly well. You've got GDP numbers that came out better than expected. You have employment numbers that are fairly strong. If you're going to do it, now's the time.
Yeah, you make a good point. I mean, I think it's going to be a quarter, but you make a very good point. And we'll see what they do, but probably whatever they do, it'll be wrong in the end. Who knows? I appreciate you coming on, though. Great content, as always, Ted Seifried, Zaner Ag Hedge. He's in Chicago. We're in Nashville. I'm going to bring it back home and throw it back to Suzanne.